you'll get a little got it, I guess, on the screen.
Yeah, got it.
So I was just going to do a bit of an intro. So to welcome everyone, a really important topic, though, an incredibly important topic. You got 3, Mel, or 2?
Sorry?
Kids.
I got 3.
3. How many you got, Adam?
I got 3 girls under 10.
Yeah, 3 girls. We're both, yeah.
Wow. Make sure you two, no, it won't work. Hoody, how many you got? Obviously
21 grandkids and 6 kids.
Oh, that's amazing.
You win.
Blended family.
You win, mate.
I win, yeah. That's why I got so much grey hair.
I was going to say, I'm actually only 25.
And you looked at a month ago.
Well, the only thing grey in my house is the how, mate. We don't have kids, but let me tell you, I get up every day to do what I do for your kids, so I'm not backing down. All right, let's. Are you ready, folks?
Ready.
So I'll probably just do an intro. What I might do, Adam, if I may, is just ask you a little bit about parents with questions. Because I think people love to hear the backstory, how it started. Yep. This is going live also on our main page. So you've got 110,000 people are on that page. So you're going to get a bit of publicity. I'm not saying all 110 will be on, but you'll get it'll get a lot of views. So
great.
Yeah.
All right. Let's rock and roll. Melissa, do you go by Melissa Ava George or just what do you go by?
Melissa George is fine. Whatever you're comfortable with. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. I will find where I've got this set up to go live. Senate candidate, parents and questions. Let's rock and roll. All righty. Good evening, everyone. Trust everyone is really well. Hope you've had an incredible day. It has been torrential rain up here in Queensland today. I think we've probably had like 70 or 80 mil, but it's been beautiful. And Hoody, I know you also had a fair bit down your way over the border there as well.
Yes, mate.
Tonight, we're going to have a conversation with 3 amazing human beings, all parents. Melissa Ava George, or Melissa George, has 3 girls. Adam Gibson has 3 girls. Graham Hood, 6 kids, 21 grandkids. That's an achievement itself. You're a bit of an ambassador for Australia these days, Graham. So fantastic. I myself. What's that, buddy?
It's the population of Australia.
I myself have a greyhound. I don't have kids, but as I was saying to these 3 beautiful people, I get up every day and do what I do because the kids are the future of this country, and I can't leave it in the state it's in. So it motivates me. It's highly emotional for me. I've got nieces and nephews. I've got great nephews now. I'm getting older, and I'm like everyone else. I'm very passionate about truth and making sure that our kids get handed the banner in good order. So I might just ask each of you to do a really quick intro if I can. I might just go around my screen. You don't know how you're appearing, but Melissa, you'll be first. So a quick 30-second elevator pitch.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm Melissa George, the woke mama. For a lot of people, that seems to be my name these days. But we know I'm a fierce mama. I'm a fierce parent that has just been fighting for, to have our choice for our children and our children's future. I'm very, very passionate about my family, the people that I love, and this is something that I hold dear to me. So when it comes to all these things that are going on, for me, I will fight to the very end so that they get to have the best possible future to move into. So here we
We okay?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly. Mel, we might have lost your sound there, my friend. So no, we can't hear you. Your sound is gone.
Just missed the good bit too.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, Mel, try logging off and logging back on. You can come back in again. No dramas there. Might bump over. Adam, you're there. You're there on my screen next. So can we get a bit of a heads up?
Thanks, Jason. Look, Adam Gibson. I'm a business coach. I work as a business consultant in the entrepreneur in the regenerative farming and sustainable food system space. And I'm in that place because I have a background in the fitness and wellness industry and the desire to put healthy food on every dinner table. It's been a big driver for me professionally in the last number of years. So that's really the space I come from, with a view that every child should be able to eat good, fresh, organic food free of chemicals as a birthright, not as a privilege. and re-engineering the food system to that end has been a personal sort of professional journey the last number of years for me. But the reason I'm here really, fully is as a dad, as a parent of 3 kids, 3 daughters. It's quite young. I'm an older dad, obviously, and I'm here to protect our children. Everything I'm doing right now is with a focus on protecting the next generation, protecting our kids from what's going on to them, both medically, socially, psychologically. It's, to me, there's a whole bunch of things we need to shift around very, very quickly.
Love the way you talk about privileges versus rights there. It seems that we've been thrown back our privileges rather than being told they're our actual rights, which is absolute garbage, of course. So Mel's joined us back there. We'll give her audio a second to connect. And everyone's favourite Australian, our ambassador. I'll call him the Australian ambassador these days, but Graham Hood.
Everyone's favourite old bloke.
Yeah, you are a champion, mate.
Yeah, look, I'm Hoody, and I've been in this space since the 7th of September. Never saw myself as an activist, but resigned in protest against mandates from Qantas, and have been a spokesman for the people in the middle ground, those people who find themselves neither one side nor the other, who just feel totally unrepresented. And it's an absolute honour and a privilege to be there, to be their voice. And I'm also looking forward to rebuilding the spirit of Australia that we've lost for our kids. But before we can give them the benefit of rebuilding that spirit, we've got to keep them alive, and we've got to keep them safe. So we have to make very careful choices, one way or the other. We've got to do our research, and I'm all about now getting men to stand into that space so that they don't leave it up to the wives. They've got to get into this battle too. It's all about protection and making proper, educated, informed consent choices.
Thanks, Hoody. The females have been roaring for some time now, so I agree with you there, mate. The men really do. And there's been, well, I won't say a few good men, that would be too bad a pun, but there's been some guys that have stood up, but certainly the women have done a lot of heavy lifting so far. So kudos there. Power to you, mate, with what you're doing. Sorry, Mel, you did cut out there. Let's go back to you.
Can you hear me now?
Perfect, my friend.
Of course, there's tech issues. We can't have a live without a tech issue, right?
That's it.
So yeah, just, at the end of the day, I could see things the way that they were headed, and my family, like I said, means the world to me, and standing up for their future is something that I hold dear. We cannot leave them a future that is not safe, that is not great for them. So I'm here to help empower so many mothers, so many parents around me into stepping into that, and to using their voices to, really help their children move into a better future.
Wow, that's amazing. And it's very powerful what you're doing. I do follow a lot of your stuff, and you and I have had a conversation on you're teaching me a bit about Insta. I do like the point about the empowerment, because what I've witnessed over my life is 100% reliance on government. And I think Australians have almost relaxed deeply into that, to be honest, in good faith, if I can use that expression, because we've trusted that our public trustees would be present for us and turn up and govern for us, not over us. But I think what the last 20 months has identified is something very, very different. Adam, if I can turn to you, my friend, you've got actually, I want to hear your story. You've got a website called Parents with Questions, and I encourage every single person to jump on there. It's incredibly powerful. But mate, how did the idea come about?
Look, it's parentswithquestions.com.au. Look, it really came from a sense of, what the hell do we do? I was sitting there not long, for the last 20 months it's been going, as you say. But I guess I came to a few conclusions. One was, at the point, even just 3 or 4 months ago, I realized that there's a level of insulation I was enjoying that others didn't. There's people being sacked, and there's people losing jobs and financially up against it and so on. And I was lucky enough, by hook or by crook, to be in a position where I didn't have to be as concerned about that. And we're on a bit of property here in a nice part of the world. So there was I had a lot more to enjoy than a lot of other people, and I recognise that probably came with a bit of responsibility. So sitting in ivory tower, I'm not some super mega wealthy person. I just had this level of insulation. So just to be clear, I'm a businessman, small businessman, But I realised this level of insulation offered an opportunity and a responsibility. And I thought, well, what the hell do I do? And I got a couple of guys together and we sat around a campfire and just chewed the fat. What do we do? And the result of that was, look, let's hold a Nuremberg 2.0 type trial. Let's put some MPs on notice that we're coming after them, and we can see what they're doing. And we had a whole premise there of what was going to happen. So we went, okay. So I pulled a bunch of people together within a week, and we did a Zoom call, not unlike this, with about 8 or 10 people. And I made a pretty bold pitch and said, hey, we're going to do something over this. We need a fighting fund. And I want you to all throw, minimum 5K in each, and we get started. And we raised $105,000 in one Zoom call. I went, okay, this tells me there's some momentum here. Then we went out and went, okay, well, let's find a good lawyer. And we came unstuck at that point and realized we really had trouble finding a lawyer who would actually represent us. There was a whole bunch who were prepared to take the money, but none who actually gave us any confidence that was nothing more than just throwing money away. We hadn't met, Saran had Advocate Me at that point. We hadn't met some of the key players we're involved with now, but we had to quickly change course. In the meantime, this group was growing, and people kept inviting. So can we bring more people? So we had a Thursday Zoom call turned into a regular Thursday call. It's happened every Thursday now. Week 9 is tomorrow, and we've raised significant funds. We've got, close to 1,000 people turning up on the call, if not oversubscribed, over 1,000. So no pressure on me. I've got to come up with something to say every Thursday night. But what we've done is we've recognised that the core, I guess, focus for all of us was we were all there because we're parents. We're mainly business people to start, and it's expanded now. There's everyone. And there's a few celebrities and a few different types of people. There's a bit of a mixed bag in a really good way. And we recognised that there was this beautiful connection growing between those of us who just wanted to connect with others and be part of something they could do. So and I'm sure you've experienced that here, Jason, and Hoody definitely, and I know Mel, you have too. But there was this sense of, Jesus, thank God someone's doing something. Thank God we can actually support something tangible. So we offered a very tangible strategy, which I'll explain in a moment. We gave it some parameters and a business type arrangement and said, look, this is what we're doing. This is how you can back it. And the overwhelming type response from everyone was, thank goodness there's something I can support and do that seems to make a difference. Yeah. That was, so with that, it snowballed. So there's two aspects to it. And so that's the history of it, really. It's as uncomplicated as that. We've now got a team of, I think, 26, 27 people or more. And we're going gangbusters, trying to keep up with the exponential growth of this thing. And I'm saying that as a donor to the thing myself, as a volunteer to the thing myself, as everyone else is volunteers. We're all working around the clock to do it purely because we're parents and we care about the next generation.
Can I just make a comment here for a second, Adam? And just something that kind of triggered me a bit today. I read the federal government's now going to throw in some coin to the mainstream media because their profits were down during the last 20 months. And their money is our money, guys. And that's the part that, and that's not meant to inflame people. It's just the reality of the world. And the more we uncover, and most people that know me know I'm apolitical, but this is the very thing we face into. We've got people like you. I know what Graham's done, and I know what Melissa's done. Everyday Aussies continue to tip in out of their own pocket over and above what we're funneling into these corporates. I just think, there's going to come a time where every Australian will look beyond the current pandemic and they will see the government for what it is. And I think that's a really important moment for a lot of people during this journey. I just wanted to add that in there anyway.
And I'll add to that just because if it's all right, I don't mind saying it. You didn't, I did. That's a brown bag full of cash. That was in the 80s. That would be delivered in a brown bag as a payoff. That to me is nothing more than that. So it's just disgusts me what's happening on that front right now.
Yeah. And let's face it, the reason why they're down on cash is because their viewership's dropped right off. People are just fed up with mainstream media. I haven't looked at it for I don't know how long.
Yeah.
And I'll never look at it again. I mean, I'm done with it. So a lot of people are turning away from them and on their head be it.
Well, I think we've got 1 million people marching at the moment, and I'm dare saying there's probably 3 or 4, if not more, for everyone that can't be there. How many of those people are now reflecting on, the mainstream media? Anyway, sorry, back to you, Adam. Didn't mean to cut too deeply.
No, that's okay. Look, no, it's a relevant point. So look, the bottom line with what we're doing is there's a very clear mission statement, which is very simply protect Australian children. The end game we're shooting for and aiming for is really bold and ambitious, and that the how comes in the middle, but the end game is simply, well, not simply, quite ambitiously. We decide that the next generation of Australians, when this mess is handed over that we're created, that we're living through, is handed over to the next generation, they're going to need, and that's our kids now, our little kids now, they need a level of consciousness far above what we have ourselves as adults in order to rebuild something far better. They're going to have to, get through the generational trauma they live through, God forbid what happens there. But on top of that, they're going to have to go out with a far greater set of awareness than we have, that they never allow this to happen again. And to do that, first and foremost, they need their health. They need to understand their sovereignty. They need to understand there's adults around them they can trust. They need good men around them. They need fierce mums and women around them. They need a village to support them.
Amen.
So that's what gets me going. It's like we have a responsibility now to the next 7 generations, not just this generation. The next 100 years of Australian history will rest on what happens at this point, I believe firmly.
Absolutely.
And that's my kids, your kids, your kids. That's who's going to have to take that brunt, bear that burden, something we never had to even think about. We've been complacent and lazy and we've let this occur. And I'll put my hand up first on that one. But we need to give them big shoulders to stand on. And so that's really the point of this. And I think they're up to it. I look at the consciousness level of the kids that are turning up now, and I have no doubt they're up to the task. But to do that, we need a strategy in order to first protect them from this drug that is now being pursued on 5 to 11-year-olds and above, obviously. It's already happening, but these little kids need to be protected. And I can talk about there's 2 parts of the strategy. I can talk about that at length, but I'll hand back to you if you want, Jace, or I'll keep going.
Oh, no, well, hold on. So we want to come back to it, absolutely. And there's no, we're just rolling here. So as most people know, that whenever I jump on, nothing's scripted. Melissa, Mel, so what are you seeing? What are you seeing with the local community, with parents and kids in and around your space?
Yeah, well, you see obviously a lot of parents that had no choice, that went and did what they had to do. And I feel for them. I feel for many of the parents that weren't in a situation to just be like, no from the minute go. And that hurts me. That hurts me for the community. It hurts me for my family members, so many people. But what I'm seeing now, I'm definitely seeing a shift, because when it comes to your children, for something that has a 0.0, let's add the million zeros that it has behind there, that doesn't affect the kids, doesn't cause any sort of death for the kids, what is the push with it? What is the level that they've gone to advertise to push this? It doesn't make sense. And I'm seeing the shift in parents really starting to see that, what's the purpose of this, So we're starting to see people ask a lot of questions, or more questions than what they did. And that's where Parents with Questions really comes into play here, because it's really a neutral platform for parents to come to a community of other parents that are thinking and feeling the same way. And I feel that was what we didn't have. Do you know what I mean? Because many of us could be labeled all sorts of things. We've heard it, conspiracy, this, far right, whatever. Anyone can put a label on you, but that's far from the truth. We are just simply concerned parents that have so many questions about our children's future. So I'm definitely seeing major shifts, especially with the rally on the weekend that we just attended, Graham and I. So many people, so many more people, and so many were there that had made the decision that ultimately regretted it, because they're starting to see the lies through the media, and they're laughing now because of so many stories upon stories and lies that they're starting to see through that. So you can only create a narrative for so long before the narrative starts breaking apart. So that's what I'm seeing. Okay,
yeah, truth. You don't need to have a good memory when you tell the truth, I guess. Graham, you live in a pretty remote sort of area. Do you have much, well, I know you're engaged in the community. Have you seen a real shift in kids at all in their mental state or health?
Oh, look, absolutely. Not only within the area, but through the comments from parents on the sites that I'm on. Look, you've got to look at the anxiety levels of kids these days. They are, they don't feel like they've got any future. They've got no hope. What's the point of going to school? You can't even think about a formal. You can't even think about an education. You don't even know 1 week to the next whether you're going to be allowed to go to school. When you do go to school, you've got to wear a mask, and that cuts down the oxygen supply to your body and causes you anxiety. It used to with me when I used to wear one. We're seeing a lot of kids growing up in single-parent families with no incomes now because of these draconian laws. Those kids are really struggling watching mum or dad or both struggle. We're seeing a lot of absent fathers, a lot of fights in the home. Domestic violence has gone through the roof. The global sale of alcohol has gone up 600% in the last 18 months.
Yeah.
Addictions are on the rise, suicides are on the rise, and a lot of youth suicides. And I get a lot of people saying to me, oh, no, the stats don't indicate that. Well, that's rubbish. I don't care what the stats say. I'm seeing the messages. I'm getting told every day that somebody came home and found their son or daughter dead. I'm hearing messages from people, from ambulance operators, paramedics, doctors, nurses who are saying that the suicide rate, one doctor said, I deal with, on average, so many attempted suicides in a year, and I'm getting those every month now. We're seeing a lot of stillborn. There's a lot of grief in families from all those situations, a lot of adverse reactions which are causing kids stress. Kids are in a really, really, really bad mental situation at the moment. Yeah. And now we're going to bully them, and we're going to try and coerce them into getting this thing. They're going to have mum and dad saying one thing at home and the teachers undermining mum and dad at school. We're going to see peer pressure going through the roof. We've already seen that. And the level of bullying that goes on in the workplace for adults is hard enough to deal with without seeing that visited on our kids. So we have a major, major problem. And that's why I'm right behind what Adam and his crew are doing. I think looking after our kids and our sovereign people should be our highest priority at the moment.
Well, one of my goals is that, well, it's one of GAP's, a Great Australian Party, and I know Rod supports me as the Ministry of Health, and I was talking to Sambo Patrick not long ago about this, and we chatted today in and around some other ideas that Sam's got there. But I think a Ministry of Health, I think to me, I would rather see the money that the federal government's funding to the profits of the mainstream media funnel into initiatives like this. This is where the real money needs to go. Say for, I mean, at the end of the day, maybe a lot of this could have been averted, but it is what it is where we are today. I also, as a kid, I mean, you know, I was born in Marrickville, grew up in Blacktown, West Girraween, Pendle Hill, Rudy Hill, those sort of places. And I love my sport. I lived for my sport, you know, soccer, cricket, whatever it was, I was into it. And then now I'm hearing in Victoria, you know, 12-year-olds again who can no longer participate in sport. Now, that is the biggest pressure you could ever throw on me as a child, because if I couldn't get out there and play cricket on the weekend, I don't know what they would have done in my headspace, you know. So, and the other point there, Graham, with the teachers, you know, I don't know how many kids are going to be put into a classroom now with all these teachers that aren't going back. Like, that's going to create a lot more stress and pressure too. That's
another thing, and I mean, let's see a show of hands of everybody who'd really like to be a kid right now. You wouldn't see any, would you?
No. Adam, let's come back to you.
Yeah.
Sorry, mate. No, go, Graham. Finish.
Just to add to this, and I make the bad news cycle. It's a real part of it now, I know. But the thing that really, you know, it's kind of it's not overlooked, I guess, but it seems to be absorbed without too much comment. Is, you know, this age of consent's now down at 12. You know, I got my hair cut a month ago, and the hairdresser's in tears because he said my 12-year-old went and got himself a jab against my permission. And the 12-year-old can now make their own mind up in that area when, you know, they're not allowed in the school bus without a note, you know. So we've got that as a reality. And then we've also got this media. I'll go back to the media. I think they're completely culpable in this for being part of this peer pressure they're pouring on. You know, I've got nephews and nieces at this age, and they're under so much pressure. As you say, they're not allowed to play sport. All their mates are done at school, and they're getting this constant thing in the news and the media cycle, and it's absolutely criminal. I just find it abhorrent that anyone can play a part in that. Whereas, you know, these kids have a choice to make their own minds up and get parental consent and all the things that we grew up having the right to do in this country.
I agree with you totally. In saying that,
I had my daughter just yesterday come to me saying, when we're talking about mental health, and obviously I speak, very openly with my kids to, so that they can learn to think for themselves and voice their concerns and be able to, feel their emotions and all of that. But she had a little bit of a, breakdown saying, I don't feel the same, Mum. Like, I don't feel the same not doing what I used to do, and that's the first time from her. And I just think, they are, little adults just in little bodies, that feel and struggle and all of that. And when we have the undermining of what, we as parents bring our children up or differently, we have the certain ways that we do things, and when they're going, like we said, into schools, and that's been undermined, where they are 12, can make those decisions now, that just goes against everything that you work hard for as a parent, teaching them the morals and the way that you grew up in. A way that passes down through generations, but it changes. Like, for me, I'm a different parent to how I was a parent, how my parents were. And I feel that we definitely, like, going back on what you said, Adam, we're building our children to be stronger, but it doesn't mean that they don't feel. It doesn't mean that they're not going through the things that we're going through as well. And we're so much busier fighting the fight and supporting one another in our communities that we can't forget about the kids as well. This is the thing, and this is the point. The main focus here is to never forget about the children, to fight for the children, because they kind of put these blankets over things, and really, Christmas is coming up. They're saying that, where everyone's going to have that freedom. But for me, I feel, okay, this is a little bit of a disguise. This is a little bit of, okay, guys, have a bit of fun so that you don't have to think about what's going on. Parents don't know who they can trust anymore, especially whether it's government, media, teachers, and finding a community where they feel that they can be heard and feel that they can trust people is just so important, including their kids.
Beautifully said, Mel. My mother, who's partly in this little urn I've got on my wrist, bless her soul, she died 12 weeks ago, but she used to say to me as a kid, in a little strong Scottish accent, children should be seen and not heard. And if you're a kid growing up in the 70s and 80s, you'd probably remember, maybe even longer, you'd remember that. But I'd say now, now more than ever, children must be heard. They must be heard. And it's going to create, and I'm not a parent, and I've openly stated that. Like I said, I've got nephews and nieces and great nephews. But it's now, go away, watch TV. Well, we know screen time's gone up, whatever fold over the last 20 months, but that you can't do that anymore. Now parents are going to need coaching as well. So I think it's an incredible initiative, Adam, and I might just turn back to you to talk into it a little bit more with the strategies there, mate.
Look, thanks, Jason. So look, there's two elements of it. One is a legal investigation, which I won't go into in too much depth, but there's a private investigation team looking at, conflicts of interest or potential, backhanders, conflicts of interest, dodgy associations and things at the highest levels that have led to some of this, what we're now experiencing, particularly in the health space.
Yeah.
And I should point out initially, just to be clear, like the initial motivation for that wasn't necessarily to try and bring anyone down. It was actually, now it is, to be honest with you, because I can see how insipidly bad it actually is. But initially it was like, let's just bring an MP to account so they actually would speak up and actually create a counter narrative. This is before it got so ramped up, before the vaccine really rolled out heavily. And so we just wanted them to speak up and actually tell the truth and stand for the people instead of protecting their party and their government. Now that's changed and the investigation is right. We'll bring you down if we can. And if that happens, then the people see the decision makers fall. That might make them question a lot harder. Even they'll double down on questioning. So that's part of it.
We're supporting on that too, by the way, mate. When we move our campaign forward, in Nuremberg 2.0, we will have trial by jury, mate. We'll have trial by jury.
Yeah. And silence is complicity.
Yeah.
Going along with it is complicity. And I'm at that point firmly. So, and we're backing the legal team through Advocate Me are working with us on that. And we've got other legal partners in there. There's a whole team on that. So that's getting some traction. So I guess, for those who are sitting on hot bricks worrying about that, it's good to worry, is my advice. You should be worried.
Yep.
Yeah. And secondly, on a more positive note, is that the clear and present danger that we see, as we've alluded to here, is this next age group, which is the 5 to 11-year-olds, who, let's be honest, have less of a voice than anyone else in this society, maybe except the younger generation again, or the younger age group again. And what we decided to do is, rather than go out and start chucking facts at people, saying this is what can happen, this is what's wrong, and this is all the doom and gloom, because I don't know if everyone notices, but every time we do that, we go to people we love and say, look, don't you understand this is going wrong? No. We start chucking all this information at them. And the instant thing they do, particularly if they've already taken the thing themselves, which is a vast majority of people now, is defend it, deny it, and kind of push it back and defend it. And we go nowhere. So the conversation is a dead end, and therefore we're not getting through it. The punch isn't landing at all, right? And yet somehow we keep throwing them, wonder why we don't get through. So to break that, Robert Kennedy Jr. talks about breaking or challenging an orthodoxy. And he says, this is psychologists have been employed to look at this, and the way to challenge an orthodoxy of this sort of mainstream, cognitive dissonance that everyone seems to be in, is to invite people gently and lovingly and respectfully into a conversation that invites curiosity by asking questions of them. So rather than saying, you don't know this, you idiot, you should do this, you should do that, we say, look, have you noticed that's going on at the moment? Do you feel comfortable with what's happening? I know, adults can all make their own decisions, but how do you feel about 5-year-olds? So just inviting that level of conversation that actually induces them, the person listening, to ask their own questions of the whole thing. So it's really putting a wobble in the narrative is really what we're hoping to do, but on a one-by-one basis. So the site is parentswithquestions.com.au. It says on there, we're not taking a anti-vax point of view at all. We're taking a pro-choice, pro-information. But the problem we have, as we've alluded to, is there's not a lot of information in the media that presents both sides of a bargain. We've got a very it's a one-size-fits-all. That's all you can do. And that's a problem. As a parent, we want to be informed, So it's sort of the analogy I use. If years ago, someone put a couple of pins in strawberries in the factory. Someone just gone to work and put a couple of pins in strawberries. He put 5 pins or something went in, and no one ate strawberries around the whole country. There was 1 in 10 million chance or whatever of getting one, but no one fed strawberries to their kids. We all have found something else to eat. That's what we're looking at now. Is there's the pin in the strawberry, and we're getting told to eat strawberries, and for some reason we should be more concerned about it. Anyway, so putting that questioning, respectful part and giving people the place to come and ask those questions discreetly. It doesn't challenge them to be going against the mainstream. It has them feel supported. There's a lot of social proof there that tells them they're not alone. And we're also giving them the language. This is the important thing, particularly maybe for some of the listeners here, Jason, is giving people some of the language and ways in which they can approach those that they love and help them wake up other people. So it's almost a tool to go out and speak up for the 5 to 11-year-olds or any other kid really in your life that you would like to be protected, but you don't have direct control over. You can go and create a conversation with those parents that they would look at things differently and feel supported in having a different point of view.
I think that's fantastic. I was talking to Rod today. Rod's put a letter out to which has been carefully penned by a lot of our experts, our constitutional experts around Australia. And we've got a magnificent team around Australia that help. And some people have had success with it. Now, to the extent that their employers actually challenge it upstream, I don't know, but they've said that, they can continue their employment. You can't, I guess what I like about your model is that I certainly can't do one-on-one with every single person because I'm getting, I'm just one bloke. I'm getting 300 messages a day via email, phone calls, or messenger. And it's sad because I don't want to leave one person behind. And it's kind of why I did what I did with a show, or not a show, it's not the word, but I hosted a bloke named Jason Reynolds from the Quantum Movement because I had so many people, like Hoody would know, where people were ringing up and they were one step away from, kicking the chair away, from hanging themselves. And And I take that. I'm a bit of an empath. I thought I was a bit of a, well, actually, I didn't think I cared that much, but I must care a lot when you have people. And so what do? I mean, I can try to focus on one person, or you create a solution which the broader can then go and self-serve. So I really, really appreciate that model there. Graham, it looks like you're going to chip in there, mate.
Oh, no, I'm just really interested in the conversation. It's a really good group. I think I was on a Zoom with Adam and his crew the first night that they got me to share on a Zoom call. And I related a story. And the story goes like this. I was flying from Mount Isa back to Brisbane at night. Big line of thunderstorms all the way from Isa to Brisbane. And right down the approach over Archerfield into Brisbane towards the north, there's this massive storm. And we couldn't see it clearly on the radar. And I was flying with a young lady who's very competent. And as I turned over Archerfield and lined up on the runway, there was a Cathay Pacific flight in front of me, between me and the runway, and he was about to enter this storm. And I thought, man, he's crazy. But I noticed the body language of my first officer sitting next to me. I could just see her out of the periphery. She was really tensed up, and there was lightning going everywhere, and the radar was purple, and it was really angry. There was a whole lot of wind, and my idea was just to line up, have a look at where it sat on the radar between me and the runway, work out which way it was heading so I knew which way to turn when I decided to go around and not do the approach. But I could feel her anxiety. And I looked across at her and I said, Cara, and she looked at me really startled. And I said, I just want you to know I'm not committed to this approach. And she just went, thank God for that. And then I looked at it, I said, I've got all the information I need. Now I'm going to bail out. Now, the thing I want us to think about is if you've got your 10 or 12-year-old kid sitting next to you in the car and you're driving to the jab centre and he or she looks at you and says, Dad, what are you doing? What are we doing? Oh, it'll be right. I could have said to Cara, don't worry about the storm. It'll be right. I've landed in heaps of these. She'll be right. What if it isn't going to be right? What if you take your kid to one of these centres or give the consent yourself and it doesn't work out to be right? You got to live with that for the rest of your life, like I would have if I'd made the wrong decision that night. And we have to really contemplate everything we do along those lines. We have to do a risk analysis in everything we do.
Yeah.
I mean, we're very. You look at all the 4-wheel drives parked out the front of schools. When I was a kid, you used to walk, kicking cans down the road, between school and home. And sometimes it'd take you 2 hours to get home, and you get home, your uniform would be ripped because you've been down a creek somewhere. Nowadays, we've got this thing about stranger danger, and we've got to protect our kids. And there's all this occupational health and safety applied to children. Teachers aren't allowed to touch them or give them a hug or anything like that. We're so risk averse to that sort of stuff. But the thought of giving them the notion that they can just at the age of 12 go off and say, yeah, I'll get it because all my mates are, or not take an active interest in making sure that they don't, it flies in the face of all the other stuff that we do, which is crazy. Just silly things. We wrap our kids in cotton wool. We don't let them, they're not exposed to bacteria. They get sick quicker. They spend most of their life indoors playing with screens. We've just lost it. And yet, if we don't take this seriously, we really have lost it.
I think we are. I mean, you look at sports players. Even cricketers, concussed, bang, you're out because the medical advice says bang. Anyway, so Mel, back to you for a second, if I may. So, with your kids, do you homeschool them, or are they at school now?
Yep. So homeschooling the kids. Definitely thought I'm gonna get in because I could see the direction. I wasn't comfortable with that direction.
Yeah.
I wasn't comfortable with the segregation that they were going to have certain slots here and there at school. They were already going through enough being locked in, and I wanted to create a really comfortable environment for them. So registered for homeschooling, which got approved, which was amazing. And we're figuring out what works, which is great. Because
did you say approved? Did you say approved?
Yeah, it's all approved. Yeah.
What does that mean? Sorry, I don't have. What do you mean?
So when you register for homeschooling, you got to go through the NESA website. And that's obviously for the New South Wales. I think it goes, every state has it. But it's a simple registration, filling in, 1 or 2 page form. And you wait for a call between, say, about 6 weeks. I think it was a little bit earlier where they'll designate a person, a lady or a man, say, to your, your case with your children, ask you questions as to, why you're wanting to do homeschooling, just get a bit of a background, which I just kept it simple. I was wanting to create, an environment for them where they could thrive individually on the things that they love, obviously being in line with the curriculum. And yeah, we had our Zoom meeting a couple of weeks later. I chose the curriculum through there's many online websites that offer full curriculums, online portals where they were doing it for how many months were they at home homeschooling already from the computers. So they were familiar with it. But the beauty is with homeschooling is, okay, yeah, you might pull your hair out for a little bit adjusting, but the pressure, kids don't learn 6 hours or 5 hours out of the day at school, right? They play, they do certain activities, and the same goes for home. You can focus, around your child's individual strengths, and that's the beauty of it. And you can get homeschooling done by lunchtime, 3 to 4 days max a week. And I really thought, as a parent with the current circumstances, that was the best option for us. Regardless of how much pressure it was going to put on me, because I can't live as a parent knowing if I'm throwing my child into an environment where I don't have control of what's happening around them. And with how many messages like yourselves that we get daily of what's happening in schools, and it is definitely happening, where parents think, where teachers think that they can have individual conversations with the students of what they think is best for your child, that doesn't sit right with me. So the decision for me and my family was, they're the safest with me, where they can still have an education and still, have a beautiful life where they're doing more of the things that they love, if anything. So, yeah.
Well, I want to be a little bit controversial then, and maybe take it from a different angle. What impact does it have when the kids aren't mixing with other kids, or do you have a solution for that?
Yeah. So I work really hard to surround myself with like-minded people that, are really supportive of our choices, and that they're also have made their own choices. And we meet up, we have play dates, we go to parks. I make sure, obviously, they see their cousins. We do the normal things. Yes, there is an adjustment to obviously not seeing all their school friends, but this, I guess, ultimately is teaching them what to stand up for, and building that resilience in them that they're going to really need in the future. So definitely we're not locked up at home. They're definitely having fun and playing with family and friends still. But it is important to keep the connections and connect with groups and communities around you, have the conversations. And that's why platforms like this are just so important,
Yeah, there was a study, I think it was released maybe 3 months ago, Cho, Smith, Corey, and I think it might have been another Smith, that spoke about the impact that the lockdowns were having, so from employment loss, financial insecurity, I guess, and Adam, you spoke about that before, loss of childcare services, any of those social services. But probably the one that Graham spoke about, he spoke about domestic violence. But what we're seeing now is an increase in child abuse as well. And which is why I'm so adamant to continue doing what I'm doing, because, man, it's hard enough for parents. I don't know what it's like. I'm not one, so I can't sit here and say I know how tough it is. But when you turn to abuse your child, and I was fostered out 3 times as a kid, I can tell you it's not much fun. I wasn't abused in that sense, but it's not much fun. I can't imagine what it's like, when your parents are trying to cope and do the best they can, but you're the end of that, basically.
And you're right, because listen, it has to work for you. I've never, I guess, used my platform to push that everyone has to go and homeschool. This is ultimately everyone's choice. You have to make the decisions that you feel that you can live with, like Graham said, that you can handle, or just everything's an adjustment in this. We've had to adjust to so many things in the last 2 years. I always say, don't put too much pressure on yourself. Each day, bit by bit, small changes amount to big changes. And it's so important to recognize that, like,
some days are harder than others for me, myself as well. You know, doing the homeschooling, being a parent, still having to do, you know, housework, support, you know, hubby's business. We're all doing it. And then on top of doing what I'm doing, running my business as well. There are moments that are harder than other days. But at the end of the day, for me, I know there's no turning back, because we have to move forward and we have to keep making the decisions that we know that we can live with and that we're comfortable with. If there is that feeling where you're like, I'm not sure about this, like that gut feeling, or you're driving somewhere like Graham said with your child and it's just not right, make that decision for yourself. Trust yourself. Trust yourself more than anyone.
Adam, please.
I'd say something on this. Look, I fully respect, Mel, what you're saying with homeschooling. We've just done the same. All the kids out of school for very similar reasons. But this is something I just want to. This is the part that I think we're generally missing, that I feel like is missing in the conversation across the board. And I want to throw it in. It's not popular, I get it, but this is my view. If there's a mongrel horde brandishing weapons and bombs and coming at us to take over our homes and take our children away and steal it, you know, and harm our children, every man in this country would stand up and probably take the kids out of harm's way, number one.
Yes.
And then they'd turn back around and pick up what they can and fight that horde. They'd fight the people who are coming after their children. That's an instinct that's bred into every father, every man, and absolutely every mother. And I see that. That's what's happening. It just doesn't look like a mongrel horde. It's going on, and they're coming after our kids at the same speed. Like before, I don't know how much of this am I supposed to reveal, but I've been reliably informed I've seen a report from the Kirby Institute at University of New South Wales. The roadmap for New South Wales is before they go back to school, they're recommending every 5 to 11-year-olds.
Yeah, that's right.
And so they're rushing the TGA approval through.
Yeah.
So that to me is like, that is got such repercussions. Like, you know, we know what it can do to an adult. What do you think it's going to do to a 5-year-old? There's going to be myocarditis and all these things, an epidemic amongst 5 and 6-year-old children.
Well, I think that's why your conversation, Adam, that's why I like your questioning, because, you know, I guess, you know, if I had to flip the other way and I said to you, well, hang on, Adam, no, you're wrong. This thing is actually saving my kid's life. But that's a really hard thing for you to sit there and cop, right? Because you would go, you're an absolute idiot, Jason. How could you say that? And this is where we start butting heads. And there's people out there that might, a friend of mine once said, what if Bill Gates thought what he was doing was for the better of the planet? Can't agree with it, but you know what? Maybe. And there was a psychologist who spoke recently about most people try and do good every day. And you try and look at that objectively, and it is really hard because you're motivated by it.
Yeah.
That's why I really love the way you've questioned this, and you're a business coach and I'm a health coach, so I kind of get it. But that's why I love the way, hey, what do you think about these statistics, or how do you feel about this, or have you heard about such and such? I think that is a beautiful way of not only creating community engagement, but actually educating people across what is truly going on.
Agreed, Jason, and that is the essence of what we've created. Because look, I'll say this openly for myself, is that every part of me as a man wants to fight, all right, but there's no one to punch, you know. So that's my instinct, is protect and fight and stand strong, and you know. And but it's almost emasculating that there's no one obvious to go and take that out on. But what I've discovered through the wisdom of elders and guys like Hoody, and through, you know, some very hard soul searching myself, is that I can turn that anger, which I feel, that rage and grief and anger and all that stuff I feel as a man, and rather than bury it, I can actually turn it into action based and coming from a loving place. Right. So, and what that looks like for me, and it's my experience, and I guess I'm sharing it to offer it, is I can take that rage and then come back to what I care about. When, like you said, Jason, it's I love my children. I love everyone's, you know, any child I will stand for. I'll stand for them with my life. But what do I have to do for that? I have to give up the ego part of me that wants to fight and come back to the loving part of me that says, I'm going to go and have the conversation that I've been avoiding with the people I love. I'm going to speak up at work when everyone's bagging out and making the about their jab or whatever. and I'm going to actually be the one that speaks up. I'm going to be the one who risks being unpopular. I'm going to be the one who says, no, you know what? I actually don't agree with that. And I wonder if you considered this. And that's how we, for me, that's me transcending, taking anger and fear and grief and going, you know what? I'll turn that into love and I'll act from that place. And if I can, one kid gets saved from one conversation I can have like that, it's worth every bit of unfriending or unliking or, you know, social, whatever you want to do to me. I don't care. But one good spot is worth all of that. So that's what a modern day warrior looks like. I don't think the women have as big a trouble embracing that. Maybe that's a generalization, but I see in people like Melissa, it's like it's so embodied in what they do every moment of the day.
Yeah.
For us,
but I feel you too. I feel
harder.
you, Adam, in the sense like I can have that rage where I just want to go out and punch someone in the face too. Like these are my kids, for God's sake. So mothers, yeah, have that rage, but yet the feminine energy that you're speaking about is just so important. You know, to get the message across in a way that it's going to be absorbed correctly. Yeah, in the way that they understand.
There's one part in the middle though I can't tolerate. I have to say is, and I know that's again not popular to say that, but the sitting in the middle and go, well, I'm all right, I'll do nothing. That is the weakest position to take. Fair enough. If you believe that giving that medicine, that drug to your kids is the best thing, you're doing it out of love, I respect that. I genuinely do.
Yeah.
If you believe that and you're making an informed decision, that's I respect it. I don't agree with it, but I respect it. If you do what I've chosen to do, what we're saying, go the other way, I respect that too. Sitting in the middle and going, oh, you know, I'm all right, Jack, who cares? That's where I believe the majority tend to sit, and I find that just staggering. And it bugs me deeply that that's the generation of men that I am in now.
Yeah.
Go on, Hoody, are you going to say something?
Oh, look, I totally agree. I think my real purpose now is to bring men back to where they should be in a gentle way. I'm talking about men. The mark of a real man is not how often he draws his sword, but how often he chooses not to. I think we've got to take a lot of that alpha out. You know, I love the guys who are just quiet sentinels who, like sheepdogs on the hill, they sit and watch the flock and everyone feels safe around them. We have to honour our women and children and make certain that they feel safe and respected and that they can flourish without being controlled. We need to be the rangers in the national parks of our families. We need to know their boundaries, we need to patrol them, and we need to make sure they're protected so they can fly naturally without being caged and hemmed up. And there are things going on at the moment with, shared parenting and custody issues where one parent may say definitely not getting the kids jabbed and the other parent will have custody one weekend and go and get them jabbed. I mean, this does so much damage to children in the psychological aspect because kids are already in that situation are really struggling. We've done a lot of work with couples over the last 15 years, Michelle and I, and one of the things we say to them is, the best gift you can give your children is a happy marriage. Why? Because it makes them feel secure. And the other thing is that we model marriage to our children. So what they see in us as couples is what they're going to expect in their own lives. So we need to really, I remember when I used to fly, I remember it well. Before takeoff, there would be the safety demo and the safety demo would say, if oxygen is required, a mask will drop from the unit above your head, pull it down to start the flow of oxygen, fit your own mask first before fitting your children. Why? Because you can't help them if you're suffocating, you're not getting enough oxygen. We have to look after ourselves in order to look after our children. We have to prioritise that as a matter of course, and men need to step into that space because women are burning out and men are just sitting on the couch wondering what they're going to do with their lives. And the kids are looking at dad to model manhood and to model a good marriage with mum. And that's where we have to take this. This is the next journey. And that means now in this debate, getting men to stand with their wives and make these decisions together. You can't leave mum to go to the school and organise, work out what the curriculum's going to be this year and everything. It'll be right. She's doing all that. You've got to take an active interest in this because your children's lives are at stake.
I want to give a big call out for, and just hearing that there, Graham, and I can feel your emotion through you, Adam. it's like the wolf is controlling the flock at the moment, and the sheep don't know it, and that's the crazy thing with this whole thing. And yet, sorry, I'll go back to my call out. It is to the mental health workers, because we know the numbers. I've seen the numbers. I do look at the numbers of mental health workers, and I've got a project that I'm so proudly involved in with clinical psychologists and experts in that space, and we're going to do a live. I think we're going to go about the 14th of December about the trauma, basically, but remedy as well. There might be a bit about APRA in there if I don't get kicked off, but hopefully I can. But what I'm seeing, well, what I want to say again, just closing that, is a big call out to all these mental health workers, whether it's Lifeline as well, Beyond Blue, whatever it might be. We know through the numbers, these people themselves must be stressed because of the numbers coming through. We've got a food bank I lived in Melbourne Victoria 17 years, back home Queensland now, but I remember reading the article in The Age, so I didn't read The Age online, where it was cars lined up over the West Gate to get food from food bank. Like, this is Australia, and here we are again relying on the citizens, the people of this country, to fund and pay for each other, while we've got a government supporting mainstream media profits because they're lacking this money. We talk about community mental health. By God, and I know Rod and I spoke off camera today. We are so passionate about, if we get in, we're going to make some changes here, I can tell you, just to support people with our money, not giving it to bloody corporates that are taking it away. I mean, the distress there is just beyond belief. Anyway, a big call out to them.
If I could add something there, mate, on the mental health front, we're talking to a lot of people who work for Beyond Blue and Lifeline who've been sacked because they won't get the jab. So not only is there an increase in the instance of mental health, there's a decrease in the number of qualified people to handle them.
Yeah.
So it's like they're saying that all this is about health. So what do? You sack 7,500 nurses in Queensland. You sack all the paramedics. In Queensland the other day, a lady fell out of a wheelchair and she broke a leg. Her son called the ambulance. The ambulance operator said it'll be an hour 45 because we're dealing with a lot of emergencies at the moment. I wonder what they are. It was 6.5 hours before the ambulance turned up.
Oh, my God.
6.5 hours. I know from ambos who have been stood down, who are still, because the system hasn't caught up, getting rosters and requests to work in stations where there's just nobody available. There were, in northern New South Wales alone, John Larder shared a document with me that was emailed to him by the ambulance crewing people in New South Wales. There were 250 vacancies in northern New South Wales alone that they could not fill.
Since when? How hard is it to get into the ambos?
I know. Now, how can this be about health? This is not about protecting the health system. The measures they're bringing in is destroying the health system. And what are they doing? They're taking the people with integrity out of the system. They're taking the people who've got the courage to stand up and say, no, I'm prepared to risk my entire career, everything I wanted to be as a kid, because I think this is wrong. Now, that takes immense courage and integrity. I'm not saying the people left in the health system don't have that. They do. But a lot of people are seeing it a different way. And to lose people like that, I mean, I think Qantas is losing great people. A lot of the people I know who will never fly again were men and women in the cockpit of great integrity, and they're lost. And I mean, that's just a tragedy. And we're going to deal with this for decades. That's why it's imperative we start looking at rebuilding and protection and rebuilding sooner rather than later.
Can I add to that quickly with what Adam said too? And look, we're seeing so much of this and it's so sad, like to wait 6 hours. With what Adam said too about the people just sitting back and saying, oh, I'm okay, and not do anything about it. If real Aussies can sit back and watch their fellow employees get sacked for a choice that they wanted to make for themselves, then that's not Australian at all.
No.
There has to be a point where people can look around and see what's happening, where their fellow employees are getting sacked, their relatives are getting sacked because of their choice, and say, okay, what's going on here? I need to speak up. Even if my choice was to go get it, I still don't agree that their decision's not respected. Adam is 100% right here. Australians need to stand up and support every other Australian for their choices and their decisions if they want their decisions and choices to be respected. Because sitting back and doing nothing is going to be, literally will be the end of Australian democracy as we see it. and choice in anything. So that's
And
a big
doing
one. And I'm
nothing is a
very
choice.
passionate about that as well.
And doing nothing is a choice.
That's right. That's right.
You can't say, Qantas run these annual refresher courses online where they do these online scene plays of for bullying and anti-discrimination. And there'll be two guys going to a party, the Christmas party at work with a couple of girls that they work with in freight. And there's some dodgy little scene where, Bob goes up to Mary and says, geez, you're looking really good, Mary, da-da-da. And then it goes to a section where it says Mary should do what? A, tell Bob to nick off. B, go to her manager and report it. C, da-da-da. And you sit through this ad nauseum every year. And yet when it comes to this, they've flushed all of that down the toilet like most of the corporates have. It's all a box-ticking exercise. Diversity, all the diversity stuff Qantas has gone on with has been an absolute joke because they've shot that all down completely by allowing people to be coerced at work and bullied at work. Now, if Mary went to the office Christmas party and Bob put a party drug into her drink and then took her away to do the wrong thing with her, he'd be sacked. Exactly. But these corporations are mandating, they are actually raping the people that they're coercing into these situations. It is. They're coercing them into consenting to something they don't want to put in their body. Now, if that isn't date rape, I don't know what is. And yet if that happened at an office Christmas party, the people involved would be sacked.
Absolutely.
So we have lost so much in this country. We truly have lost so much. We've got to get that back. We have to hold these people to account. And as far as making choices, the Civil Aviation Safety Authority, I read a document today that's being passed backwards and forwards between them. They cannot answer three basic questions about this medication. And the big one is the long-term side effects. They say we don't know yet. So if you're thinking about having your child put through this procedure, when the people with so much at stake can say to others, we don't know yet, how can you say that you know? How can you do that? You need a lot more research, and that's going to take a lot more time, and these mandates need to be pushed way back a year.
Yeah, longer even, 100%.
Yeah, dump them all together.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think powerful men standing up. I got a mate up here on the Sunshine Coast, Ricky, who did exactly what you did, Adam. He's just biting the bullet. He's just going, you know what? I don't care what they say, do. You can take my bit, you can do whatever. But I know which side of history, it's well worn, that saying, but it's certainly more relevant. Hey, where do you guys, does your organisation or the movement, if I can call it that, Adam, what do you call it, mate? Have you given it a title?
Look, it's parentswithquestions.com.au is really the way to find us. So it's that. We just called it a private business network initially. It was all it was. We didn't have a fancy name. We didn't have a website. You don't find us that way. But that's the fundraising arm of it. And
we also are on Instagram and Facebook, but when it comes to parents registering, jump on the website like Adam said, but the social platforms are up, and we also do have Telegram, so you can connect with us all through there. And
we're aiming at getting 5 million people logged in by Christmas.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I should say this, thanks to the efforts of these remarkable people on the screen here with me, largely due to their efforts, and this amazing team we've got on the back end of this, all the volunteers. We've launched last Thursday, and we're now over 350,000 views on the site. So we're getting there, and look, the way Hoody says, 5 million by Christmas, and the 7.3 million families in Australia, according to my last Google search for it. So there's our number. We got to get in front of every one of those families so they can make an informed choice.
Might want to try DuckDuckGo, mate. You might want to try DuckDuckGo. That'll give you the real number.
I do actually, yeah. Well,
I just want to, if I may, just throw some stats at the people, and I did it on one of my posts recently, because whilst there is a lot of this going on, what we're seeing, in my opinion, is the people creating the movement, and that's beautiful. That's what we want. Deregulation everywhere, grassroots, ground up movements where central control has no place. And I get a lot of people who chat to me and they're so stressed, anxiety is all up, and they say, how come you're just not stressed about it? I said, because it's over there And what I do every day is create something new. I just don't even give it attention. I know it's there, of course. It's hard not to know it's there. But when you're creating something different every day, you only have, your plates only can only fit so much on it. And if you're putting all your heart and soul into that, that just doesn't matter. Like you just continue on with life without it. So focus on what you can do rather than, sending another video to someone else about the tragedy of the world, because that there's, we know it's there. We so know it's there. I was going to make one more point too, but it slipped. Just on numbers, I wanted to say you've got 350,000 views. Are you all around Australia, Adam? Have you got is that the way the dynamic works? Do you have people in each state?
No, look, we've got a big social media presence thanks to these guys. We had speakers on stages we launched on Thursday, and by Saturday, Mel and her team had organised, and Hoody and Melissa were on in Sydney. We had I believe people in Melbourne, Port Macquarie, Wagga, here in Ballina. It was. So we've got. There's no.
But anyone can join.
Yeah.
Anyone can join nationwide. Like, you've got friends and family in every other state. Some people, across Australia. We're on our platforms daily, interacting with people and scrolling. So this is the beauty. Like, even if you jump on the Parents with Questions Facebook or Instagram, share those stories or share our posts with them. Even if you can't find the words straight away, share our posts and our stories. So then that tells the story to them. So then that will explain what Parents with Questions are about. We've got interviews with mums and dads up there already. We've got some really good pics from the rally on the weekend, and there's more to come. So utilize our platforms to help you out there, but absolutely nationwide, anyone can join the website and our platforms.
Critical thinkers is what you're building by the sounds of it.
We're nothing if not committed. That's the number. We don't say we've got the perfect formula, and is it the perfect way to do it? Who knows, honestly. But one thing I can guarantee 1,000% is we've got a group of people around this who are utterly committed to saving the next generation of Australian kids, and that keeps me up at night and it wakes me up in the morning, and it keeps me charged all day. And I know that's the same for everyone on the team. It's been literally like the internal workings of it has been like an overwhelming military operation. We just said we take no prisoners, no excuses, no snowflakes, do the job or get off the team, and that includes volunteers. And with that in mind, it's gained that momentum. It doesn't come from any amount of ego on anyone's front. It's purely based on the fact that this is a clear and present danger. We've got to do it fast. We've got to do it quick. We've got to be effective.
Yeah, military style. We've got international. We've got a couple of thousand international people on the main Rod Cullen page, which Deno is streaming to. The guy that does a brilliant job on our Facebook page, he's streaming to. So we're actually going to hit some international people. It's a question I was going to ask you, whether you've had any international contacts at all.
Yeah, we have. I mean, I was on the phone with the Children's Health Defence in the US, and there's another group out of the UK contacted me yesterday, and so that's starting to explode as well. So yes, and we're certainly not restricted to Australia. This messaging's the same. It's not restricted to this, this country. And we're just trying to bite off one piece that we feel we can chew. It's big enough as it is, but certainly if it grows beyond that, what we're finding interestingly is that, and it seems strange to say this, and I don't want to, I hesitate because everyone says put their hands out when I say it, but finding the fundraising aspect of it's probably the least difficult bit. Because we've got a clear strategy, we've got a clear plan, we've got a very committed team, got a lot of passion behind it, but passion matched with strategy. And business and people want to support it. They're actually looking for things they can do. So I don't feel uncomfortable saying if we have to go international and find X amount of $1 million to do that, I feel we'll do it. I feel we've got the capacity to do that. That's not the barrier. Having the strategy there to make that reality is the tricky bit. And if you can come up with that part, the money tends to follow.
You do an amazing thing. And this is, again, it's why I get up for the kids I get up, but just to know that there are so many people around Australia like you three that have a voice, that are standing up, that are making a difference. I've known Melissa and Graham for a little bit now. I mean, it's just, it's a whole new tribe you bring into this space. But I have
Yeah.
no doubt that your messages and the questioning part, you're going to bring a lot more into the fold. And I think that's the critical part. And a million, I don't know, what was it, 1 million last week around Australia, if I had to guess?
Yeah, it was. We had that announcement at the rally. It was absolutely amazing. The crowd roared, and like that, you know, you saw and you compare photos for where some of the people that have been doing it longer than say I, Graham or Adam, you know, before and after pictures of standing with 30 people to hundreds of thousands of people now. So I think finishing off here, I'd like to say any parents that, you know, are scared to use their voice, scared to ask the questions or open up, just come and connect with us. Come connect with us in our community. You're not alone. Our arms are open wide to you know, welcome you in, regardless of your status, regardless of what choices that you have made. We don't discriminate. We're here to support and to move forward for our children.
Beautiful. Thank you, Mel.
I'll tell you, being at the rally in Sydney with all those people, the police said it was 300,000 in Sydney. Police in Melbourne said 700,000. So there's 1 million with 2 cities. Forget about all the others. I mean, we've definitely gone beyond that. But to be amongst all those people, different walks of life. I mean, I was marching with my arm around a Rastafarian guy, and he and I just connected. You know, it was beautiful. I didn't see anyone in that crowd that I didn't want to go and give a hug to, and I got heaps of hugs. I mean, social distancing, I don't know, but it was just amazing. And that's my tribe now. And as I said at the rally, this is my church, being that, you know, people have a common bond that want the same things in the same tribe. It's just amazing. I think we're going to get back something a whole lot better than what we've lost in the last 2 years.
Oh, I agree.
The piece I want to probably just to make sure we fit in here is the whole point of what we're doing with this is to give people the tools to do it themselves in a good way. In other words, to wake up others in a good way, in a way that isn't hitting them over the head and you know, confronting them and so on. It's about that loving offering of curiosity. So a lot of people sort of go, oh, you guys should do this, you guys should do that. And my response is, no, you guys should do it. You guys can go out. Every single person has the opportunity to go and have a conversation with the person, to go and offer, you know, something in a loving and gentle way that actually genuinely transmits. When you're offering someone information that's, you know, you could hurt your kids if you do this. That's coming from love. We need to recognize that in ourselves. We're loving. It's come from love. But if we can really tune into that and be open-hearted in that love instead of sort of defensive, and you should know this better. If in that, and I struggle with it every day, don't get me wrong, I'll put my hand up here first up for it. That's why I know so much about it. But being open-hearted and having that conversation, that's the battle to win. And I believe it is a battle. A battle's not the right word, but it's that level of urgency here now. We need to do this, and we need to do it fast, and we need to be, you know, I say to our guys, have a target of how many conversations a day can you make happen today? You know, how many people can you connect with? How many lives can you touch? How many children can you potentially save from this? And that empowers every single one of us. You don't need millions of dollars behind you to do that. You don't need any kind of resources. You don't even need a social media platform. You just need a love in your heart, a little bit of courage. You need to recognize that self-censorship is the one thing that we've all bought into, and we can all opt out of just as easily. We can just take the mask off and speak from our hearts. And that's simple as that, and as challenging as that, as it may be. And the final thing is just remember, not the mostly final thing, but the invitation really is this will be over before long. In some form or another, this will be done. And we're going to look back and go, what part did I play in that? Our kids will ask us that. Hoody says this a lot. You know, you want to look at your kids in the eye. I know that's been quoted a lot, but it's true. We want to be able to look ourselves in the eye too. And yeah, we want to be proud, but you also want to make sure we don't miss the moment. Don't miss our time. This is the time to be a hero, people. There's cowards being exposed every day in Parliament and in government. And, you know, thank God there's people like you here, Jason, to replace them. But there's also heroes being born every day. Here's 3 of you guys on the screen who I know as heroes already. I'm late to the party. You guys have been doing this before me, and That's what's out there. And every single one of us has the opportunity to do that, even if it's with one family, one child. So that's the opportunity. We don't want to miss it.
I think the thing we've got to remember is the only thing we should be anti is coercion.
Yes.
So if we approach people with an anti-coercion frame around what we're going to discuss, in other words, we're not going to beat them up or make them feel guilty. We're just going to give them an opportunity to share into that frame rather than feeling like they're being bullied into it. Because it's a lot easier to, I don't know who said it, it's a lot easier to con somebody than it is to convince them that they've been conned.
Yeah.
And the other thing I recognise too that is there's a lot of people who've had this who are starting to feel remorse. And when we go talking about the deadly nature of it, we're scaring the daylights out of them.
Mm.
You know, they're thinking, what have I done? I speak to so many people like that every day.
Mm.
And, you know, this is the one thing in my life that I never want to be more wrong in. I want to be really wrong about this. I want people to point me out in the crowd and say, that's that idiot who said this was all bull.
Same.
Because if we're right, a lot of people we care about, we know the answer to that. So we don't want to be right.
And just to leave it on a bit of an up, I think to Adam, what you point, the leadership, the amount of leaders that are stepping up is just beyond belief, and that's got to be great for the country. That collective consciousness, and call it spiritual if you will. It is just so powerful, and it's not even people who are appearing on stuff. We put our mugs on screen, and I get berated. I must say, not as much as the beginning as I did, in April last year or May last year. And Mel, to your point, it was pretty lonely back then. But when you see a million people on the streets, they're the leaders that are stepping up. The people, Raina, obviously, people like her behind the scenes, they're the ones that are doing a lot of this heavy lifting as well. They're the true leaders, and it's in every single human. And that's the beauty. All these people are creating this beautiful new Australia that's going to serve us, for going back to your point about 7 generations, Adam. We're doing this, and we're doing it independent of what's going on over there, because the people power. I did a live on stats the other day, but there was a Harvard study done, all peaceful, non-violent protests from 1900 to 2006, with more than 3.5% of the population standing up. And I'll give you a quick number. That's 903,000 Aussies. And if you reckon there was 1 million on the weekend plus 2 or 3 at home, that's 4 million. Not one government has ever withstood the people. Not one of those in 106 years have the people lost doing peaceful protests, non-violent protests. You obviously need a remedy beyond it. And I reckon that it's in all of us to keep doing this and shaping the Australia that we want, shaping the parliament that we want, shaping the health, the education, whatever it might be. So power to all of you. Thank you.
There's one precursor to that stat, Jason. This government would have fallen already if mainstream media actually reported the actual numbers and showed what was going on to the people at home who were just watching. Because all they're showing them is, there's 2,000 people at this rally and they're all rednecks and racists. In the past, all those rallies would have been seen for what they were by a media that used to actually do its job. But this media has become so coerced, they're so much part of the narrative that it's making it much harder, but we still got to keep turning up. We have to keep turning up. We can't.
Just the beginning.
Yeah, I think Jim Collins, Good to Great, where you've got to break everything you've learnt, you undo, you break it, you start again. And I think I said 2 Saturdays ago, it is day one. It is day one because we felt it, that it was going to be a really big number. So thank you each for contributing tonight. You're amazing people. For me personally, on Friday night, I'm speaking at the Morayfield Community Hall. I'm in admiration of what they did up at Livingston, up at Yeppoon. Reached out to a few people out there, chatted with a few people up there. Part of a Zoom call Sunday night with the Moreton Bay businesses there. So I'm going to speak. I think Pauline Hanson will be speaking there as well. So it's a great opportunity for me now to also spread the conversations we've had here tonight into that group as well, because they're business owners, but they're probably parents as well.
Thanks, Jason.
Thanks for being part of it.
Thank you,
guys. Love sharing a screen with you guys.
You too. You too.
Right. Plenty of love there.
Hey, Melissa, Michelle really loved you.
I loved her too. I got to send you a beautiful picture of us that the photographer's got. Lovely picture. So I'll send that your way.
God bless.
Thanks,
That doesn't
guys.
play on the
meet some
cutting
of you
room.
guys in person, I hope.
Sorry?
All my friends are on Zoom these days. Hopefully one day we'll all meet over a campfire.
Where are
we're
you,
only,
mate?
we're only a couple of hours away, Ed.
I know. We'll get together soon, I'm sure.
Definitely get together. Thank you so much, guys.
Where are you, Adam? Out of interest.
I'm down Northern Rivers, inland from Byron.
Okay, beautiful.
Bangalore way.
Lovely. All right.
Yeah.
Well, much love. Thanks, guys. I have no doubt we'll chat again in some form, shape.
Yeah.
We'll see each other. So
Absolutely.
appreciate tonight. If you need a link
Thank you
to
so
tonight, let me know. I've recorded it as well if you want it. Entirely up to you.
Yes,
Perfect.
please.
Can you kick
Thank
next Thursday up your sleeve for me, Jace?
This
Yeah,
Thursday?
Next Thursday, yeah.
Not this Thursday?
No, next Thursday. If you can.
Yeah. So not tomorrow night. Good, because I've got
Oh,
one
mate,
tomorrow.
you're welcome to join tomorrow night, but I want to have you as a guest next week. If that's all right.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's perfect. I'm booked tomorrow night, so that works well. All right. No worries, mate. You got my details. Thank you. Much love, guys.
Lovely. God bless. See
See
ya.
you guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.